All right, let's dive deep into something you probably see all the time, but maybe don't think too much about. Notaries.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Think you know everything about those folks with the stamps.
Clearly not.
Today, we're going to crack open the Virginia Notary Handbook.
This thing's actually way more interesting than it sounds.
It's a total treasure trove of info.
Really is.
Yeah.
This handbook is so much more than just rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a glimpse into how we make sure things are, legit.
How we trust stuff.
Exactly. In a world with tons of legal documents flying around.
Okay, so for anyone who's ever been told this needs to be notarized and had no idea what to do,
Haha.
let's start with the basics.
Okay.
What is a notary? What do they actually do?
So at their core, a notary is a public official.
Okay.
Kind of like a referee, but for important documents.
Interesting.
The state appoints them to verify identities.
Makes sense.
They watch people sign stuff,
Mm-hmm.
administer oaths. Basically, they just make sure that everything's on the up and up.
So no one's trying to trick anyone.
Exactly.
So they're kind of like the guardians of truth in a world full of contracts and all that.
Exactly. They're there to prevent fraud.
Oh, okay.
Make sure those signatures are the real deal.
Wow.
And that they're given willingly.
That's huge.
Without notaries, how could you ever really be sure a document was legit?
I never thought about that.
They're like a cornerstone of our whole legal system.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Now, the handbook spends a lot of time on how to become a notary in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Is it as simple as just buying a stamp and calling yourself one?
I wish. No, there's a whole process. And the handbook lays it all out, step by step.
Okay, so what's step one?
Well, first you got to be at least 18.
Right. Got to be in default.
Obviously, got to be a U.S. resident.
Okay.
And got to be able to read and write English.
Right. Makes sense.
You'd think that's a given.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised.
All right. So basic literacy, being an adult.
Uh-huh.
What else?
No felonies on your record.
Okay.
Unless you've been pardoned or had your rights restored, of course.
Makes sense.
Virginia really takes the integrity of its notaries seriously.
Right. So it's not just about understanding the documents.
Nope.
It's about your character too, huh?
It really is. You're handling a lot of sensitive stuff.
Makes sense with all that trust involved.
Yeah.
So say you meet the requirements.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next?
You've got to fill out an application.
Okay.
Pay a fee, which is $45 right now.
Not too bad.
And send it all off to the Secretary of the Commonwealth.
Wow. Sounds official.
It is. After that, you have to take an oath of office at your local circuit court.
So there's checks and balances.
Exactly.
To make sure someone's really up for the job.
I got it.
Before they start wielding that stamp around.
It's a powerful tool.
I bet.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed the handbook talks about both, traditional notaries and electronic ones.
Yeah, yes.
What's the difference?
That's the 21st century for you. Traditional notaries are what most people picture.
Ink and paper.
Ink stamp, signing paper documents.
Classic.
The old school way.
And the electronic ones.
They do the same thing, but with electronic documents.
Yeah, okay.
Digital signatures and seals.
So same job, just updated for the digital age.
Precisely.
Does the handbook go into detail about both?
It does. Outlines the requirements for each type.
Oh, wow.
Covers everything from the tech involved to the legal stuff.
I see.
Because remember, even if the way you do it changes, the notary is still responsible for keeping things legit.
Right, preventing fraud.
Exactly. That never changes.
It's funny. I was once getting something notarized,
Mm-hmm.
and the notary was someone I'd known for years.
Uh-huh.
But they looked at my driver's license like it was some kind of priceless artifact.
Uh-huh. Really?
It felt almost too cautious.
Yeah, that's not being cautious.
Yeah.
That's doing their job right. The handbook really stresses this idea of satisfactory evidence when you're verifying someone's identity.
So it's not enough to just glance at an ID.
Nope. There's a whole list of acceptable IDs, 9 to be exact.
Wow, 9.
And even then, the notary can refuse if they have any doubts.
Seriously?
Totally. They're looking for anything fishy.
So they're looking for red flags.
Yeah.
Discrepancies, anything suggesting fraud.
Absolutely. They're on the front lines of this battle.
That's a good way to put it.
They're liable for any misconduct, so they got to be really careful.
I see.
The handbook makes it clear. A notary is not just stamping papers.
Yeah.
They're acting as an official witness,
Wow.
responsible for upholding the law.
That's a big deal.
Huge responsibility.
I always thought notaries just dealt with signatures.
Mm-hmm.
But the handbook lists a bunch of other things they do.
Oh, yeah, it's way more than just signatures.
Like what?
They can certify copies of documents, administer oaths.
Okay.
There's even something called verification of fact.
Verification of fact.
They actually check public records to confirm info.
So their role's actually quite diverse.
It is.
Does the handbook go into each of these duties?
Oh, absolutely. It gives you a rundown of each function.
Cool.
Explains all the legal requirements and the procedures the notary has to follow.
I see.
And get this, Virginia was the first state to let notaries do verification of fact.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no clue.
It's true.
That's really interesting.
Like the notary's role is changing,
Evolving.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
To keep up with all the new stuff happening in the world.
With all the electronic documents and how easy it is to change information these days.
Exactly.
It makes sense that notaries would become even more important.
More vital than ever.
To make sure we can still trust things.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they have a lot of power.
They do.
But there are limits to what they can do.
Oh, of course. You can't just go around notarizing everything.
Right.
The handbook lays out the limits very clearly.
Okay, so what are some things they can't do?
Well, a Virginia notary can do their thing anywhere in the Commonwealth.
Okay.
And sometimes even outside of it under special circumstances.
Interesting.
But they can't do things like certify birth or death certificates.
Okay.
Or perform marriage ceremonies.
Oh, right.
Or notarize their own signatures.
That makes sense. No conflicts of interest.
Exactly. It's all about maintaining the public's trust.
And making sure the whole system stays fair.
You got it. The handbook is super thorough about these boundaries.
That makes sense.
Notaries operate within a specific legal framework.
Right, so they can't just do whatever they want.
Absolutely not.
Now, what happens if a notary does step out of line?
Uh-oh.
Does the handbook talk about that?
It does. Official misconduct can get you in big trouble.
That's bad.
You can even be removed from office.
Wow.
The handbook lists all kinds of potential penalties.
Okay, like what?
Reprimands, suspensions, even criminal charges in some cases.
So there's a system of accountability.
A strong one. Notaries are held to very high standards, and the handbook makes that clear.
That makes sense. So we know the public's protected.
Exactly. There are safeguards in place to prevent abuse of power.
It's good to know.
For sure.
Wow, we've covered a lot already.
We have.
It's amazing how detailed the handbook is.
It's really impressive. They thought of everything.
And we're just getting started.
Oh, yeah. There's so much more to explore.
I can't wait to learn more.
Me too. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to go even deeper into the Virginia Notary Handbook.
Sounds good.
We'll look at some specific notarial acts.
Okay.
And all the little things that make this role so important.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Virginia Notary Handbook.
We're back.
I'm learning so much about notaries. It's fascinating.
It is, isn't it?
But we've only scratched the surface, right?
Oh, there's so much more to uncover.
So we talked about how careful notaries have to be when they check someone's ID.
Right.
The handbook calls it satisfactory evidence, which makes it sound like more than just glancing at a license.
It is.
What does that actually involve?
Well, it's a whole process.
Right.
Notaries aren't just looking at the photo and the date.
Right.
They're checking for signs of tampering.
All right.
Making sure the person matches the ID.
Right.
Even asking questions to double check.
So they're trained to look for things that don't add up.
They are. They're like detectives.
That's a cool way to think about it.
Looking for clues that something's not right.
It sounds like a lot of pressure.
It is, knowing they're responsible for stopping fraud.
Wow.
But the handbook's clear about that responsibility.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes how important the notary's judgment is.
Oh, okay.
It's not just about the ID. It's about the person's behavior, too.
Oh, interesting.
Are they acting nervous or shifty?
Could be a red flag.
Exactly. Trusting your gut is a big part of the job.
That makes sense. Speaking of accountability, we mentioned the notary's journal earlier.
Yeah, the journal.
It's more than just a logbook, right?
Way more.
Like, what's its real purpose?
It's like a historical record of everything they do.
Okay.
Every entry. Super detailed. It tells the story of each notarization.
Wow.
The date, the time, the document, who signed, everything.
So if there's ever a question about something they notarized,
the journal's the proof.
The ultimate proof.
Exactly. It's even admissible in court.
Wow.
The Secretary of the Commonwealth can inspect it, too.
So it's serious business.
Oh, yeah. It's not optional.
Right. It's the law.
It shows how important transparency is.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And accountability.
Exactly. Everything's got to be above board.
Okay, let's talk about the notary seal for a minute.
That official stamp.
The one that makes a document feel legit.
Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff.
The handbook is super specific about what needs to be on that seal.
It's like their fingerprint.
Okay.
A unique mark that says, this is authentic.
So there are rules.
Big time. No messing around with the design.
Haha. Okay, so what needs to be there?
Well, first, the notary's name, exactly as it's written on their commission.
Okay.
Then the words notary public.
Okay.
Or electronic notary public.
Right.
Commonwealth, Virginia, obviously. The date their commission expires.
Gotcha.
And their unique registration number.
That's a lot of info.
It is, and it all has to be clear and readable.
So it's more than just a pretty design.
Way more. It's packed with information.
So like a MIDI legal document itself.
You got it. It's a symbol of their authority.
Oh, okay.
A guarantee that everything's been done by the book.
I see. So let's get into some of the things notaries actually do.
All right.
We've talked about signatures, oaths, copies. But the handbook breaks each one down in detail.
It does. Lots of nuance to each act.
What were some of the things that stood out to you?
The section on acknowledgments is really interesting.
Okay.
It's probably the most common thing they do.
Interesting.
But it's more than just watching someone sign.
Oh, okay. How so?
Well, the notary has to make sure the signer knows what they're doing.
What do you mean?
They have to be sure the person signing is really who they say they are, that they're signing freely and willingly.
Right. No coercion.
Exactly. And that they understand what they're signing.
So it's about protecting the signer, too.
Absolutely.
Making sure they're not being tricked or pressured.
It's a big deal. The notary's there to make sure it's all legit.
And if they're not sure...
If there's any doubt, they have to stop everything.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
It is. They're the gatekeepers.
I hadn't thought of it like that before.
It's a crucial role.
The handbook also mentions oaths and affirmations.
Ah, yes. Those are important.
What's the difference?
Well, they're both about telling the truth.
Okay.
But an oath usually involves, like, swearing on something.
Like a Bible or something.
Exactly. A higher power. While an affirmation is more secular.
So it's about respecting different beliefs.
Exactly. Notaries work with all kinds of people.
Right.
The handbook says it's important to be sensitive to that.
That makes sense. But still maintain the seriousness of the promise.
Absolutely. The truth is paramount.
It's amazing how the notary's role touches so many parts of life.
It really does. It's woven into the fabric of society.
From simple things to major legal stuff. Speaking of history, the handbook talks about the history of notaries.
Oh, yeah. It's a long and fascinating history.
What did you learn?
Well, did you know the word notary comes from Latin?
Really?
Yeah, notarius.
What did that mean?
It referred to the scribes in ancient Rome.
Scribes?
Yeah, the guys who wrote down important events and transactions.
Wow, so their history goes way back.
Centuries. They've been around forever.
It's amazing.
They've evolved alongside our legal systems.
Makes sense. As society changes, they change too.
Exactly. And in Virginia, their tradition is especially rich.
Right.
Goes all the way back to colonial times.
Wow.
Back then, they were essential.
I bet.
Imagine a new society trying to get established without a way to verify documents or witness agreements. Chaos.
Probably.
Notaries help document everything.
Like what?
Land transfers, wills, all kinds of important stuff.
So they kept things running smoothly.
They did. They're vital for commerce and legal affairs.
It's incredible how their role today still reflects that same need for trust.
It's a thread that connects us to the past.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And as we keep going through the Virginia Notary Handbook,
Yes.
we'll see how those ancient roots have influenced things today.
We will. It's all connected.
The laws, the procedures, even the ethics.
It's a fascinating journey.
I can't wait to see where this deep dive takes us next.
Me neither. There's so much more to discover.
Welcome back to our deep dive.
We're in the home stretch now.
You know, going through this handbook, I'm realizing there's so much more to being a notary than I ever thought.
It's way more than just stamping papers, that's for sure.
It's really about protecting trust.
Absolutely. And in today's world, that's more important than ever.
Yeah, with all the scams and everything.
Exactly. That's why this handbook is so important.
It really lays out the challenges, huh?
It does. It goes way beyond the basics.
Okay, so what are some of those challenges?
Well, for example, think about IDs.
Okay.
Sometimes things aren't so clear-cut.
Like what?
What if someone shows up with an expired license?
Oh, right.
Or their name's a little different on the document?
That's tricky.
It happens more than you'd think.
So what's a notary supposed to do?
It's a balancing act.
Between what?
Between being flexible and following the rules.
That sounds tough.
It is. The notary has to be able to read people.
Oh, okay.
Not just look at the ID, but like assess their behavior too.
You mean like if they seem nervous or something?
Exactly. Are they being evasive?
Or maybe too eager.
Right. Those can be red flags.
So basically, trusting your gut.
The handbook really emphasizes that.
Makes sense. It's not just a mechanical process.
Nope. You got to use your judgment.
The handbook also talks about the challenges of, getting clients.
Yes, the business side of things.
I never really thought about that before.
It's important, though.
Yeah.
Notaries often have to hustle to get their name out there.
Really?
They got to market their services, network, be creative.
So it's like running a small business?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They manage their time, track their finances, build a reputation.
It's more than just the legal stuff.
It is. And the handbook actually offers some advice on that.
That's helpful.
It tries to be really practical.
There's a section here called unlawful notarizations.
Ooh, yeah.
That sounds kind of scary.
It's serious stuff. Unfortunately, there are people who try to take advantage of notaries.
What do you mean?
Try to get them to notarize shady documents.
Like fake ones.
Could be fake, could be unethical. Stuff that's just not right.
That puts the notary in a tough spot.
For sure. What are they supposed to do?
Yeah, how does the handbook advise them to handle that?
It's very clear. The law comes first.
Okay.
Always. If something seems off, the notary has to say no.
So they're not just blindly stamping anything?
Nope. They have to use their judgment.
And sometimes make tough calls.
Exactly.
Does the handbook give any examples of what to watch out for?
It does. Things like missing information.
Okay.
Inconsistencies in dates or signatures.
Mm-hmm.
People being forced to sign.
So it helps them spot trouble.
It does. Give them the tools to protect themselves in the system.
That's really important.
It is. You don't want to get caught up in something illegal.
There's one thing here that I found really interesting.
What's that?
It's about safe deposit boxes.
Ah, yeah.
Notaries can be involved in those.
They can in certain cases.
Like when?
Well, in Virginia, if someone dies and they had a safe deposit box, a notary can help access it.
To do what?
To find a will, maybe?
Oh.
Or
right.
other important documents.
So it's not just about working with living people.
Nope. They're part of the process after someone passes away, too.
That's fascinating.
It's all very carefully regulated, of course.
Right, of course. But still, it's a different side of their work.
It is. The notary's there to make sure everything's done right.
Impartially.
Exactly.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have, from ancient history to modern-day challenges.
From checking IDs to handling oaths and safe deposit boxes.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of what notaries do.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's not just about the stamps and the signatures.
It's about something much bigger.
It's about trust and making sure our legal system works the way it's supposed to.
You said it perfectly.
I think anyone listening to this will see notaries in a whole new light now.
I hope so. They deserve our respect and appreciation.
They really do. So the next time you see a notary, remember everything they do behind the scenes.
Remember the knowledge and responsibility they carry.
And the vital role they play in keeping things fair and trustworthy.
Well said.
That's it for our deep dive into the Virginia Notary Handbook.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.